Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the channel. I'm the SSG, and if you can't tell by the channel name, I absolutely love Sega. And if there was one console I had to be stuck with for the rest of my life, it'd be the SEGA Saturn. Love me or hate me for it, but that is my pride and joy of a console. And if you're anything like me, it's looking to be one hell of a good year to be a Saturn owner, or at least a Saturn fan. Not only do we have new games, new controllers, new peripherals, but we also got a brand new fan translation. So let's not even, deal with all the BS. Let's just get straight into it. And let's talk about a little game that just hit the net, Linkel Liver Story. Not only does this game earn the award for the wildest named RPG to make it to the West, but it should also earn one for throwing you right into the fire the quickest. Not 10 minutes in, you've already met the majority of your motley crew, chased a wannabe Master Splinter through the woods, pissed off an armor-clad mole riding atop a giant bluebird, and on top of that, the game throws a water dragon right at you. Now, if that ain't the way to start an action RPG, I don't know what is. Wild ass shenanigans aside, Linkel is very much your run-of-the-mill RPG story-wise. The world's in chaos, you need to save it, cue the epic adventure. And after only 3 hours though, the game has firmly hooked me honestly. It's not so much the story that's keeping me interested, but rather the sum of the game as a whole. The presentation of the world is absolutely beautiful, 2D sprite work that stands with the best of the 5th generation, transparency, scaling, and reflective elements, with just a small touch of what looks to be 3D elements. All in all, it's a gorgeous game to look at. Now, part of this translation pack is a very well done English manual. I didn't look at it going in. You definitely should. But I find figuring out the controls pretty straightforward. Moves like the rolling attack and tail whip I figured out on the fly, and when I figured out that I didn't need to keep spamming the C button to keep running, I literally dropped the controller and walked away for a minute. Yeah, I feel pretty stupid for that one. There's also the farming mechanic for gaining weapons. These little spots with 3 flowers let you utilize the seeds that you acquire in the game to try and acquire more effective weapons. There's 7 weapon types in total, all with their own pros and cons, with each type having 3 levels. The level of weapon you get is based on how many pearls you have in your inventory, and since you get those pearls from defeating foes, I've spent a fair amount of those 3 hours farming in numerous dungeons. There's also a magic system based on the 4 elements in the game, but I've yet to make it to that point yet. Now, as much as I'm really enjoying this game, I do have a few issues with it. Trying to figure out where to go in the beginning wasn't as straightforward as I think the developers thought it would be. Like you're supposed to go to the southwestern woods to meet up with your master for training. So my first thought was to go west, then south. Nah, that's not what you do. You in fact have to go all the way to the bottom of the first stone, then the second, then follow the coastline westward. I mean, it's not too big an issue, especially if you actually pay attention to the dialogue, plus areas you can go to on the overworld map are labeled, whereas areas you can't aren't. But it does become bothersome at times. My biggest gripe though are the damn hitboxes. Sometimes enemies can hit you when there's a full character width and nothing between you, and other times you can do the exact same. It kind of evens itself out, but in areas like this beach, these mudmen beat the shit out of me like 4 times. I'll admit though that playing the game through the frame monster probably caused a number of these issues. The small amount of input lag was pretty noticeable at times, and when I played on my CRT the timing issues were pretty well resolved. The hitboxes were still pretty wonky though. That said, if you're a fan of games like Zelda, A Link to the Past, or Magic Knight Rayearth, then you should feel right at home playing this. Plus, it's pretty damn enjoyable, honestly. If you want to go ahead and patch the game yourself, I'll be linking my boy Nuno's vid down in the description, where he walks you through the process. Just understand that you'll need a modified Saturn, ODE replacement like the RIA, or an action replay card flashed with pseudo Saturn to play it. At least on real hardware. Or, just emulate it. Now, we also have a brand new game being developed by the well-known Dreamcast indie producer JoshProd. What we know so far is that it'll be a 2D fighter, and that it'll also be seeing a Dreamcast release. Now, we all know the Dreamcast has more power under the hood, but what really interests me is a rumor I've been hearing around the net. Rumor is that the game will be taking advantage of the Saturn's built-in expansion port. Now, does this mean the game will be getting the 1 or 4 megabyte treatment? I don't know, but considering how much time and energy JoshProd has put into their other releases, I wouldn't put it past them, or even the possibility of a custom card of some kind. All that said, we might be looking at one hell of a beastly 2D fighter, so keep your eyes open over the next couple of weeks. And next up, we got RetroBit's officially licensed SEGA controllers. Now, I haven't had a chance to see him in person, but my junkyard buddy Brian did at last year's Portland Game and Retro Expo, and he said they hold up pretty well. Personally, I'm not a big fan of the new DualShock design, but by all accounts, this is more of a feature for PC users. My biggest worry at the moment though is that we still don't know exactly when the Bluetooth dongles for the actual consoles will be shipping. I may have missed a memo, but no dongles mean these things will be absolutely useless on original hardware. Here's to hoping I'm just blind or they slipped up and they'll release when the controllers do. Now lastly, we have one of the most anticipated pieces of Saturn kit finally coming out this year, Professor Abrasive Satiator. Now earlier this month, Professor Abrasive updated his Patreon account explaining what this device would actually be and what it wouldn't be. And for all intents and purposes, this is an EverDrive for your Saturn. You pop it in the back of the console through the VCD slot and you have your entire library there if you want it. Now it does negate the ability to use VCD support, so games like Gun Griffin that have opening cinematics with MPEG-1 video, you're not going to get that, but that's a very small price to pay. Now the biggest question I think people are going to have is, why do I even need this? Why does it exist? I mean, we have ODE replacements like the Rhea, the Phoebe. We have action replays modified with pseudo Saturn. We have the good old-fashioned disc swap trick. Please, for the love of God, stop doing that. And of course, we have modified consoles with chips inside of them, like I prefer. Now, that's all fine and great, but I think the biggest selling point to this actual device is its portability. And this was explained to me by a buddy of mine. See, you can take this device, you can put your entire library on it, and you can take it out of the back of the console and take it with you anywhere you want to. It is an EverDrive for all intents and purposes. You know, Saturns are not cheap, the games are not cheap, and this right here gives you the ability to transport those things without the worry or the compromise of having any of your crap damaged. I think that's one of the biggest selling points, on top of the fact that it has a relatively high storage capacity. 256 gigabytes is what I believe it is currently, and later on it's going to be a lot more. In fact, it might be a lot more right now. But my point is that it's another option for people. It's a portable option for people. And while I might not be an early adopter, it might be something that you really want to grab a hold of. So keep an eye open for that later on this year. I do know that Patreon supporters will be the first ones to get the grabs on it, but it shouldn't be too long after that everybody else does. Now with all that said and done, 2019 is looking to be the best year for the SEGA Saturn in 2 decades by all accounts. We are looking at a resurgence of this system. It is truly getting the love I believe it deserved. And it's going to be an awesome year going forward, people. Now I'm going to leave the links in the description for everything I talked about today. Go check out all those links. Give people love, give people support, because the only way this is going to continue to happen, the only way this community is going to continue to grow, is if we continue to help it. You know, we've got to give the support, and that's the biggest deal. So with all that said and done, I'm the SSG, and this is me, signing out.